you have been saying that this is the season of oofball.
And that's not to downplay the quality, because these are not hoofs, as you put it. They're long passes. We've seen 4-4-2 almost, which was more like a 4-1-4-1. We've seen 4-3-3, and we've seen a 4-2-3-1.
Is that where we're at now? We're doing YouTube compilations of goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Sunday sees the first Manchester derby of this Premier League season as Manchester United travel to the Etihad for the Super Sunday slot. United, fresh off the back of their first victory of the season, scraping past newly promoted Burnley 3-2 at home last time out, with City having suffered 2 defeats on the spin. 2 new goalkeepers likely to be on show during this game, but the same 2 presenters in the Tactics Exposed Team Talk studio. I'm Will Pugh, that's Dean Scoggins. Dino, great to see you, mate. As always, we're going to be answering some questions from the fans. Looking forward to this one now.
Yeah, I really am. We need a belter, don't we? We need a belter. The season's been good, but it's not set alight yet. That weird international early break over. Back to the Premier League. Let's see an absolute bomb.
Well, it's Arsenal ruining it for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
They had 2 good games they were supposed to play. And anyway, Dino, let's get straight into it. As always, questions from you guys coming in. Which team should be most nervous about their keeper? Gianluigi Donnarumma, of course, has signed for Man City with Edison leaving the club. What a club legend he was. And of course, Manchester United, new signing Seny Lamens. Andre Onana's gone to Trabzonspor, but will the new goalkeeper come in, or will it be Altay by India in the sticks? Loads of goalkeeping questions.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to be most nervous? I would suggest both sets of teams. They'll be fighting it out for who's going to be the most nervous. Who should be the most nervous? I would suggest Manchester United fans should be the most nervous about the decision that gets made. There's 2 ways of looking at this. Before we get into the actual tactics of where they'll put pressure on the goalkeepers, that City don't cross it very much. Right. So there's one in Altay Bindi's favour there that, you know, he's had most problems from crosses. So City don't cross it very much. Maybe Amorim decides he won't throw Lamens straight in, he'll go with Bindir. The other thing in Bindir's favour is that they've learned to play out, as I've talked about previously on tactics, they've been much better with their playing out from the back with Bindir than they were with Onana last season. So there's a couple. The one with City, we're not going to have any issues with Donnarumma and his mistakes on crosses or saves. He will make stacks of saves. He's an absolute class goalkeeper. But the bit they should be nervous about, Man City fans, is how they're going to cope with playing out. Because you don't really think Pep's not going to play out anymore, do you, now that they've bought Donnarumma, who is perceived to be not as great with his feet.
That was the main question around him. Although, probably the greatest goalkeeper, certainly shot stopper on the planet, Champions League winner, of course, with PSG, 200 grand a week plus contract, people still asking questions about his distribution and his ability to be as that sort of 11th ball player on the pitch.
Yes. As good as he is at PSG and as good as they've been, playing out was still the place where you could get at them. So
what can United do then?
What can United do? So we're obviously straight away we know that they're going to play 3-4-3. But what's been interesting, as I've pulled out in previous shows, is that when they're pressing from the front, when it's a goal kick for the opposition, United almost slot into a 4-4-2. Yeah. And it's like a 4-4-2 diamond shape that they pick up. So they've got this sort of somebody at the base there, and they're pushing on like this. So they've moved the wing back into a full-back position and the other full-back the other side, and then they go into sort of this sort of inverted diamond shape like that. To press from the front, with one of the wingers coming in, one of the wingers or wing-backs coming in, depends which way you do it. So we'll expect Man City, as they do, to drop the centre-backs in and push the full-backs on from the way out. So you'd immediately think there that if you've got a goalkeeper who can play the right way, that's the ball. That ball over the top to that man there, or this man over here, is the way to go, because that's your easy out ball, okay? But what they'll do, United, is to put real pressure. We saw it in the Tottenham game against Manchester City as well. So this is the key position here. Now, there's loads of injuries going on, so it's difficult to say who's going to play this position. Mason Mount's a doubt. He would have done this if he was fit. Šeško may play in that position, but the striker doesn't go here. The striker is the man that drops on the 6. So that could be Rodri, most likely for City. Stop him getting the ball is key one, okay? Then you press either side as soon as the goal kick is taken.
Curved runs, yep.
So that then if it goes here and then it goes back to the goalkeeper, let's say he plays it here, so this guy's going to press, then he plays it back to Donnarumma, he's going to go here, so then the ball can't come back, okay? So you've blocked off that channel straight away. So then you think, this one's blocked off, that's the easy out ball. In this setup, you can push one on and one across, okay? But what they then want to do is set a trap. So let's say it could be Dorgu in this position here, but also I've got a feeling they might do this with Bruno Fernandes in some way, from this side perhaps, or if he drops in here, where what you want is to almost leave somebody free, okay? Leave somebody free because you want Donnarumma to play that pass in there. Set that trap, let's say it's the other side, leave him there almost and set the trap for that ball. And what Tottenham did in that Man City game, man for man, man for man, man for man, that pass is the one that if you're going to hit it, we're going to shuffle across in time by the way you do it.
Well, sorry, just to interject quickly, but I assume is also Manchester United will also be always looking at Donnarumma, because you can see what way his body's facing, right? You can see what centre-back he's interchanging with. You can have a sense of where it's going to go. If he's faced into the right, he's not going to all of a sudden do a Cruyff turn and ping it out to the other man.
No, that's precisely it. So let's just say they've blocked off this run here, and so it's going to be very difficult for him to come back this way and go over the top. He risks it going back in the net. That one is the pass, but that's the trap. So as soon as that goes in there, into this space here, then that's the trigger for that press to go on. And that will be where Man City fans are very, very nervous in that playing out scenario. And the good thing about the way that teams have set up, and this is what Amorim will do against Manchester City, is that when you've played against Manchester City, and it's Ederson, so Tottenham did this previously. So Man City then got to the point where they forced Tottenham back into that area there, which is good because you're creating this space here, right? So then the left centre-back goes right over here, which means this man has to go all the way over there, right? So you've created this space. But what Ederson would do is he would come in here, and then you're playing 11v10.
Yeah.
Right? Because then what do? Ederson's capable of hitting that one. If you shuffle across here, and you shuffle in here, and you end up leaving Haaland free, he's capable of playing that pass in there.
And it sticks to Haaland like glue.
Absolutely.
And then they've sprung
exactly that. And I would suggest that Man United are going to be willing, or they should be willing, to take that risk that if you make Donnarumma play those passes, look, it could be James Trafford, but again, same principle, make him play that pass, and that means you could get a lot of joy going the other way. And I know you won't like this reminding of this, but it was only a pre-season game, but where Bruno Fernandes scored that brilliant goal against West Ham in pre-season, that came from that press and then nicking the ball here, and Bruno stuck it in the top corner. So try and get Amad Diallo or Dorgu to free up Bruno to be the trigger for the press, and then set that trap for Donnarumma.
Yeah, if we're celebrating goals against West Ham, Dino, then I think we're going down the wrong path on
in pre-season as well.
Exactly, yeah. Just very, very quickly then, I know it's a little bit up in the air at the moment whether Bayindir starts or whether Amorim chooses to throw Seny Lamens straight into the cauldron of fire. What a game to give him his debut in. If it was, you've watched a little bit of Lamens. If it is him, just give us a couple of minutes about what sort of goalkeeper Manchester United are getting.
Yeah, so Seny Lamens looks, from what I've seen, I can't profess that I've watched hundreds of hours of Belgian league football, but
Dino, the people think you're out there doing your research.
I am, but it's quite difficult to find footage of these guys at times. But thank you to those who've posted those compilations on YouTube, both positive and negative.
Is that where we're at now? We're doing YouTube compilations of goalkeepers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. These guys are much more dedicated than we are. Put it that way. But no, I did do a lot of research on this. One thing that really struck me was that he's really, really confident on the ball, right? But sometimes when you come to the Premier League, that's not the way. He puts his foot on the ball, which I hate, because Christian Romero does it 55 times a game and slows everything down.
And you mean like baiting people
exactly.
in?
And I've seen footage of where he's got his foot on the ball, and these guys here are sort of hanging on the edge of the box, waiting for that press. So one thing we've got to be really aware of with this Man City setup, and I've got them set up now in a 3-2-5 as we expect them to be, is that they leave the eights available for that pass. Again, it's a bit of a trap.
As in City leave the opponent's 8 free.
Yes, exactly that. And what they've not done very well so far, City, which, again, I wonder if Bayindir might play because of this. They've not managed to make a decision here between whether their holders go on here and then leave the ball in here. So this is where, as we talked about with Man United, where Mbeumo will cheat, in inverted commas, and stay in this space. He won't track back this way. Exactly. He'll want them occupying him. And look, if Manchester United do what they've done, where they split the centre-backs again, and then, remember what we talked about last week, where De Ligt went into midfield. So if Haaland's not going to leave De Ligt, so De Ligt goes into midfield and they create a 2, and then Bruno comes in there, the pass is staying narrow. The pass is this one in there, or this one in there. And then if he steps in, or he steps in, then the pass is to the wing-backs, which is what Bayindir has done very, very well. So I'm a bit nervous about Lemons going straight in, because it takes time on the training ground to work out where your players are going to go. And it is a setup, and where they've been very brave, Man United, is, as I say, is De Ligt then comes in and plays a bounce pass, drags this guy out, which means the 8 can come in for this pass this pass in here. So they've been very brave so far, and Bayindir did that against Arsenal. Remember when he hit Bruno Fernandes then plays the direct ball to Mbeumo. So, yeah, he's very confident on the ball, but it takes time to get used to people's setup.
Fair enough. Dino, very non-committal whether Bayindir or Lemens is going to start. Then
I'm not Ruben Amorim.
No, quite. Let's go to question 2 then, Dino. I can't wait for this game, by the way. What system will Pep use? I mean, that's fairly straightforward. You sort of think, oh, what a sensible question. But so many potential answers this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen 4-4-2 almost, which was more like a 4-1-4-1. We've seen 4-3-3, and we've seen a 4-2-3-1. I mean,
worth noting as well, sorry to interrupt you, 11 injuries, right? Just quickly, I'm going to run through them. Omar Mamouche, Calvin Phillips, all right, 10.5. Mateo Kovacic, Cherky, unlikely is Gvardiol, Husanov, John Stones, and then doubtful is Phil Foden, Savinho, Rico Lewis, and Nico O'Reilly. At this stage, it's Thursday morning, by the way, so if we get any of them wrong or any of them come back, then give us a break. But lots and lots of problems from an injury front. Do you think that will impact how Pep plays, and he plays a system best suited to the players he's got, or will he have an idea, this is how to beat Man United, this is what I'm going to do? Yeah,
I think that, again, where I've set them up there, in attack, they want to be in that 3-2-5 shape, which, you know, we see quite regularly now. But what Man City have done quite a lot in the first few weeks of the season, not very successfully, is try and get into a 2-3-5 shape, where your left back goes in there or your right back goes in there. With Rico Lewis very unlikely to play, and then with Mbeumo, as I mentioned before, who's likely to look for this and the direct ball in there, I'd be pretty nervous about that shape. And, you know, and therefore Nathan Ake perhaps potentially as a left-sided centre-back or left-back, so that they set up very much in that attacking shape. So I also think that whether Doku is most likely to play on the left-hand side, whether it's Savinho or whoever, you know, if there's somebody else fit to play on the right-hand side, whether that's Phil Foden, I think Bernardo Silva's going to be the key in this game, where it's his interchange in midfield. Because where Man City have got caught in these games previously is where they've pushed into a 3-2-5, and then if it's been Tijani Reinders becoming the extra man, and you know, I talked about that 6th man run that we talked about. So if this is Matheus Nunes, let's say, and Reinders starts there, Reinders pushes into that space, Nunes pushes into that space, and then they're looking for that underlapping run for it to be the 6th man run. But what's happening is, because they're committing to that, look at this. 1, 2, 3.
3 on 3.
3 on 3, which is great fun to watch. And, you know, Tottenham at the Etihad last time out had loads of joy, and Brighton at the Amex had loads of joy, where all of a sudden they had 4 like this going this way, because let's say that this is Dorgu, he's got the ability to then go and join the attack there and make it go that way. So I think that Man City are going to use Nunes much more as a generic right back, and then it may well be a 2 in there, and it'll be a bit more like a 4-2-4 shape.
So given the players we've got, because Manchester United, injury issues of their own, of course, Alessandro Martinez, Matheus Cunha's out, you mentioned Mason Mount already, and Diogo Dalot unavailable. Are we saying Mbeumo, Shesko, Ahmad, does he play in an offensive position or is he wing back still? Have you sort of got an idea?
I think potentially Amad Diallo plays on the left-hand side of the attack, but it depends on who he then goes with as the right wing-back. Mazraoui, perhaps, on that side, who's very, very versatile. But, yeah, lots of injuries on both teams, but it's a question mark around that midfield shape that, you know, is it two at the base? Is it one at the base? Is it Bruno? Bruno could go and play in the attack and Kobbie Mainoo or Ugarte could partner Casemiro. So, again, injuries dependent.
Yeah, it promises to be an intriguing encounter, Dino, particularly, I think, with all the injury problems. You sense that it might be a bit more of an exciting game rather than when they've all got their sort of...
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's move on to the next question, Dino. Nice and simple. How will Man United attack? Sort of leapt ahead a little bit there. Obviously, personnel dependent, but talk to me a little bit about the system you expect to see from Amorim, even though everyone knows that it's the 3-5-2.
It is. It is a 3-5-2, and obviously one thing that's intriguing is will he start Shesko, which I really hope he does because they need to be direct. They have been direct. They've been the most direct team in the Premier League this season. They've had the most direct attacks leading to chances. Unfortunately, they haven't scored one yet. But Bryan Mbeumo has gone close on a few occasions. We had a couple against Burnley and we had a couple against Arsenal where they could have scored goals. And so that's what they're going to do. So first of all, address that selection thing. I think Shesko has to play because it's just a physicality thing. So when it was Man City Tottenham a couple of weeks ago, Tottenham, Richarlison, ball up to him, flick-ons, ball over the top, space in behind, OK? Shesko playing there gives them that option straight away. I don't think if Cunha is not fit, which we expect, I don't think you want to move Bryan Mbeumo off that side. That is where
that's
they're going.
That's his position,
exactly.
That's his best position.
Don't make two changes for the sake of one, OK? The other thing is obviously then, if Mount is not available and Cunha's not available, do you then have to move Amad Diallo into this position here? So you've got other options. If Dalot's not fit at wing-back, you've got Mazraoui to come in there, as I mentioned, and then you've got probably Amad Diallo playing on the left of the three. He's capable of doing that, and don't forget the game at the Etihad last year where Amad Diallo has turned the game on its head and made Matheus Cunha look a little bit of a fool in that right-back position previously. So there's that option, OK? So that's the sort of selection issues, whether Bruno's here or Bruno's here, whether you go Casemiro, Ugarte. I would like to think they'll move there. But what I've noticed over the last few weeks, in the first few weeks of the season, straight away, right, this is one for our graphics genius, Aaron. You've got a diamond here on this side. Do you remember we talked about PSG doing it? You form a diamond. So you've got triangles all over the place. Yep. Same here. That's the idea in a 3-4-3 setup, is to try and give yourself an extra option on both sides of the field because obviously your midfield players are flexible in that formation. But what United have been doing really interestingly this season is overloading the left side. Okay? So they're moving, Dorgu is pushing right up. They've still got their inverted forward here. They're getting Bruno Fernandes to come over onto this side and they're moving the centre-back over, which naturally moves players in. So you've got 5 here instead of 4. And then you think, well, what difference does that make, really? That is what it makes. Yeah. That is the difference it makes. And we saw it against Arsenal where he isolates the defender. And look, if the strikers are comfortable in this area here and Shesko holds it up well enough, the ball comes back to somebody in midfield and then it goes in there to attack this space. And City have been really susceptible to balls over the top so far. Twice goals have come from that. And, you know, and so when I looked at their attack zones at Man United so far this season, they're pretty neutral, pretty even.
However, Arsenal, where we see who are sort of, or have been focused
very
all
on the left.
Side.
They are on paper very neutral, but actually that's not the case because they're getting more of the ball on the left, but the more of the attacks are coming down the right-hand side. So from a numbers game perspective, it's just evening up. But yeah, that's the idea. And what I expect to see is that can Casemiro or Ugarte in that role there attract some players towards him under pressure to free Bruno to then free Mbeumo. And that will be the move that they want to get so that, look, sometimes Ray and Aït-Nouri, if this is him, might go wandering up here. And sometimes Ake is going to be left 1v1v and Burmo. So that's something to lick your lips about if you're Man United in attack.
And to be fair, Dino, as well, from the very beginning of the season and in subsequent episodes, not only of Team Talk, but in Tactics Exposed, looking back on the big games as well, you have been saying that this is the season of oofball. I don't think you said it quite like that,
No.
but that we've almost passed ourselves to death in the Premier League now. And the new sort of the next new thing is to kind of go back to the early 90s again and play lots more direct football, because it cuts out a lot of the sort of losing the ball in the danger areas in the middle.
And the speed at which games are going from back to front, it's like tennis with the way that you go. And that's not to downplay the quality, because these are not hoofs, as you put it. They're long passes, and they're designed for a specific reason. And City have been more direct, and since February or March time, when we did the Marmouche episode on how it's going to change Pep's tactics, that has been the case. And now Manchester United doing it as well. But again, get Burmo in that area. Happy days. I fancy United to get some joy in this.
They're not hoofs, they're long passes. You sound like Sam Allardyce when he was in charge of West Ham, Dino. They are hoofs. Anyway, let's move on to question number 4. Rodri and Nico Gonzalez, as we've said already, Dino, and fans are concerned as well. Do Rodri and Gonzalez play for Manchester City? We've discussed already City's injury problems. The fact as well that Rodri played last time out, of course, at that defeat at Brighton. Gonzalez had played for the 2 games before for City. When Gonzalez arrived, I remember being at his first game against Newcastle, he was absolutely sensational. He was very much, the narrative was he's the new Rodri, the Rodri replacement.
Pep used that phrase, didn't he? He called him mini Rodri.
Is there a chance they play together? That feels a bit conservative.
I think they should in this game. I really think they should, and there's a reason for that. Look, Reinders was outstanding against Wolves. He got sort of overrun by the Tottenham physicality in the second game, and against Brighton he got caught in between these 2 stools. So what was interesting in the Brighton game is that Pep brought on Nico O'Reilly and not Nico Gonzalez. Yep. So maybe he called for the wrong Nico over his shoulder, but it led
didn't notice when he came on.
Nico, get your pads on.
Oh no, not you. He's on now. Whatever,
But Brighton then got lots of joy again, because City ended up again in this 3-2-5 shape, and then another midfield, because they have so much possession, you get a little bit greedy. So Nico O'Reilly ended up in a position here, and then Rodri in this position here has got all this ground to cover. And look, I know it's Rodri, I know he's very good, the best as there is, but you still can't, as a central midfield player in a Premier League setup now, with how direct it's being, expect him to then cover an 8 running from there and an 8 running from there. You know, he's got to make a decision one way or the other.
He's good, but he's only one man.
Exactly. And there was a counter-attack against Brighton where the ball broke down in this area here, and Brighton ended up with 4v3 like this going that way. So that is the big problem for me. So I think he should play Nico Gonzalez and Rodri as the 2. And then, as I mentioned before, Bernardo Silva's the key. Because I think if Matheus Cunha plays right back, which I think he will, given the injuries and where he's played this season, you play Bernardo Silva as the right-hand side man, as your most flexible player, okay? And then when you get into your 3-2-5 attacking shape, then Bernardo Silva comes into this position here, and then Matheus Cunha provides your width on your right-hand side. So you're trying to force Dorgu back, and that means your pivots in here can stay the same. Look, I realise that means that they're probably Reinders is playing as a midfield 3, and he pushes in that position there, and then your left back has to sit. But that may be where Ake comes in. But then, if you're talking about your 2 holders picking up the 2 8s, I know you're still man for man here, but then you're expecting your fullback to drop in. You're expecting Reinders to come back, which means Rodri or Nico Gonzalez can do that job. So, in the direct way of playing and how open they've been, I think it's a 2. And final reason, Pep Lijnders. Okay? Pep Lijnders. We know the way that Klopp's Liverpool played. High press.
Ex-Liverpool assistant manager, by the way, to
right?
Klopp,
and so what we're seeing
now at Manchester
is
City.
press. So we're seeing a press there, we're seeing a press there, we're seeing a press there, we're seeing a press here. We're seeing everyone go like this. And so when this wasn't happening, when this is not Nico Gonzalez and Rodri together, let's say the ball's over in this area here, someone's going to come to feet, they're pressing. And then all of a sudden, this is what happened. This space here, completely open. completely open. And Tottenham did it, Brighton did it. They went over the top of it into this area, and then all of a sudden you're looking for flick-ons. And Man City have been completely obsessed with offside so far this season. Again, Linda's trying to push up the line. And all that does in against direct attacks is open up this area here. I mean, I'm not expecting Donnarumma to be here. He might be if they keep playing like this. But yeah, I just think that what's happened is that without Rodri, they've opened this space up in here, and it's too much space to counter. So get 2 in there, make it a bit more solid, and trust your attacking players to break down United.
If that doesn't happen, Dino, and they don't break down, and you've got Gonzalez and Rodri in the middle, and Pep maybe it's a draw still late in the game, or United, God forbid, have gone 1-0 up, and City need a bit more attacking impetus. What's the sub if they take one of those players off?
Well, the sub, let's just say they go Nico, Gonzalez and Rodri and Reinders there, then the sub is to probably take off Nico Gonzalez and bring on a winger. Because then Bernardo Silva becomes your extra midfield man, goes into the middle, and then you bring on a winger who provides that width, and you go back to Nunes being the underlap player inside. So Savinho is on his way back, Phil Foden is touch and go. So they're the attacking subs. Obviously, they're missing Cherky, they're missing Marmoush, but you could have those 2 attacking subs there, and it gives you the option to go the other way. I would think they'll start with a solid base, they'll back their attacking players to put them ahead rather than the other way around.
Well, don't forget, with Betfair's Safe Sub, your bet is not over yet. It rolls on to the player coming on. So if, for example, like Dino's mentioned there, you've had Rodri to get a yellow card and he comes off before having got one, whoever comes on to replace him, if they then go on and get booked, you still get paid out. Dino, this promises to be an absolutely exhilarating game. We've said already, right, some of the sort of big games so far this season, bar Liverpool v Newcastle, to be fair, they've sort of shown a bit of promise prior, and the actual games themselves, I'm thinking Arsenal v Man U in particular, have kind of flattered to deceive a little bit. This, I think, with the added elements of all the injuries and all the stuff we've covered just there, promises to be actually one of those that lives up to the billing.
I hope so. Goalies under pressure, players coming back from international break a little bit more ragged than they possibly would have been, injuries across the board. Two managers who could really do with getting the season set alight. So yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope for a nice early Man United, as a neutral, a nice early Man United goal, which then opens the game up for counter-attacks United and pressure from City.